So the one important thing that I want to mention is that we do ask that you spread the word. So if you know of people who might benefit from this program, please forward our email addresses to them, or we will be sending an email following this. So please forward that to them, or just mention it to them. Give us their phone number. We're happy to reach out in that way. What we have are a certain amount of funds that are set aside for each town, and we're trying to reach out to the towns that have a larger amount set aside that has as yet unused, and Orange is one of those towns. So that's the reason.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
what about Shelburne Falls?
Sure. If you know somebody in Shelburne Falls who needs them, who could use the money, absolutely. We're servicing 23 towns with this, so it's almost all of Franklin County. Rowe and Monroe and Ashfield are the 3 towns in Franklin County that we're not servicing with this program. But we do have other programs that serve even North Adams. So if you know, literally, if you know any business in Western Massachusetts that might benefit from this kind of program, please just let them know about us or let us know about them. The CDC also, more broadly, we do lots of things outside of COVID relief, and we just want to extend those services. Make sure you know about those services. Amy and I are business development counselors or coordinators, directors. What we are essentially business consultants that you can get for free. If you are struggling with your business in any way, you come to us, we help you, and if we know the answer, we'll help get you through some processes. If we don't know the answer, we can often hire an expert who does know the answer. So I've got a background in laundromats and in restaurants and in publishing companies, but I don't have a background in, say, manufacturing for the airline industry. But there's a lot of airline manufacturing that goes on in Franklin County, and we will help you, if that's your industry, find the person who can get you the guidance. So we do help with marketing or bookkeeping or just general business decision making, growth problems, rent, whatever it is. If you've got an issue, reach out to us. It's all confidential and it's all free. And so that's our job, is to help you out. And not just you, again, anybody who's not here who you might know. And the CDC also has other services. We have a food processing center. So if you know somebody who wants to start making a line of salsas, we've got a kitchen where they can do that. If you know somebody who needs a loan or you need a loan, we also have a loan servicing center. So we do hundreds of thousands of dollars of loans on a regular basis to help small businesses get over thresholds. And this includes a lot of what's called gap financing. You go to the bank, you ask for a loan, they say, well, we'll give you part of that, but we can't fund all of that. You're a little too risky, or you need more of your more capital input and then we'll lend. And the CDC helps get you that gap so that you can make that next purchase. So you want to buy the building you're renting in, you want to move, you need to buy a van for your whatever it is. So those are all the things that we do on a regular basis, and we're happy to talk to anybody about those services. I think you've all got your chats. My notes here say chats in it, and we will be sending that email follow-up when we're done, which will focus on the micro program, which is what we're really talking about today, which is a certain set of funds set aside for Orange businesses. But we're also helping lots of businesses get the PPP loan, round 1 or round 2, the EIDL fund from the Small Business Administration, the MGCC fund, the Emergency Shutdown Venue Operator Fund, whatever it is. So all of those COVID-related funds we are also assisting with. And some of those we've done a lot with, and others I've only done a few. So some we're experts at, and some we call in other people to help us with. But if you have any needs on that, please reach out to us. Again, if you know anybody else who does also. So I'm Chris. I'm one of the newest members of the CDC. I have been employed for, I think it's 3.5 months. But I've been in business in Franklin County for about 20 years. With the businesses that I mentioned. And I've got a background of teaching also some nonprofit management at UMass. So that's me. I'm going to let Amy introduce herself, and she's going to also talk about an overview of this specific program and the process of applying for these funds. So thanks all for being here. Here's Amy.
Great. Thanks, Chris. And I've been at the CDC, it'll be 20 years this month. So I've been working with businesses to help them start, stabilize, and grow. And before that, I was partners in a manufacturing business. So I take the manufacturing and retail side of the team. Um, what I'm going to launch right into this program on, and the thought is, if you have any questions, ask them. If they're quick, I can answer them. If they're going to take a little bit longer, we'll just push them to the end. Um, so this month, so in May, right, the federal government put aside federal CARES money. That federal CARES money has trickled through the Department of HUD and then through the state of Massachusetts and all the states, but through DHCD in Massachusetts. And they put out a request for proposals for cities and towns to apply. So the city of Greenfield, together with 23 towns in Franklin County, put together one package that was accepted by DHCD for these funds. We started off with $600,000 that will go directly to businesses that would be up to $10,000 in COVID relief money. Um, Other town, which is this is a standardized program that's being rolled out all over the place. Each town might have a few little idiosyncrasies that are a little different, but they're basically the same. And and like Chris said, due to population, each area, each town was allocated a little bit of funds, some more than others, um, so that we could try to get those funds expended in those towns as soon as possible. So this program started on October 1st, and it's an 18-month program, and we're hoping to get these funds out as fast as possible. And we can only do it with your help. And the goal of this program is to help businesses who've experienced a COVID loss and who expect to stay in business. You can be closed, but and plan to reopen, and you're still fundable. But if you're going closing for good, that's not you're not eligible for this. Um, I'm going to go through the application process and the forms just so that you can understand more clearly what this is about. We did not design this program, we're implementing this program. So we're going to talk about the forms and the application process and the criteria. And then Chris is going to talk about the forgiveness process, and then we'll open it up to questions and answers. How's that
And I
sound?
just, and I just want to say that these funds, this $10,000 is called a forgivable loan. Nobody involved in the program wants to make it a loan. And the entire program is designed for you to have $10,000 and you walk away spending that $10,000. So it's called a forgivable loan, but nobody wants it to be a loan. And that's very clear from the program design and all of that. So just to be clear, we're talking about $10,000 that has some strings attached, but you do not owe it when you're done.
Right. So, yeah. All right. So I'm going to share my screen, and the application and all the forms are on the Franklin County CDC website, which is in the chat, and it's under the business assistance tab. So here you see, right? Can everybody see it? Yes? No?
Right now, Amy, we see your screen.
Oh,
Your,
right now,
there
do
we
you
go.
see it?
Yep.
Okay, so I have two screens here. All right, so now here's my screen. What's the bigger one? Let's see if I can make it bigger.
Wow.
Like that. So this is the tab on the CDC website under business assistance. And if you scroll down, you see more information about the program and the application and how it works. We have some other programs: Greenfield, Shelburne, and Buckland, and Montague. They're exhausted right now, but the one that we're talking about today is this tab here that says Franklin County Regional. The North Adams project is in the middle. the North Adams Micro Enterprise Stimulus Program. And then the town-specific program is for the Shelburne, Buckland, and Greenfield Montague, which has CDBG reprogram money from money the towns didn't spend previously, and they're just shifting it to help small businesses. So, so basically this program is, oh, I know where I want to start. This program, because Greenfield is the lead of the 23 towns, they're the ones that are the main administrators. So we have an application process that the Franklin County CDC is in charge of collecting all the information and making the recommendation for eligibility, whoever's eligible, to the city of Greenfield. They will do a final review, and then they will issue the conditional award letter and the check. So I just want to be clear of the roles and responsibilities. The city of Greenfield is administering, and the Franklin County CDC is collecting and organizing all the information and making sure that the applicants are eligible. We highly recommend that you read the frequently asked questions first. It might help you get an orientation as to what we're expecting and what you can do to prepare. The next form we'd like you to do is the family income form. So I'm going to click on that, and this has all the instructions of how to fill this out. And what's important to know is that there are two ways to be eligible regarding your income. These funds are meant for low, moderate income business owners. And whether you were over, so there's a threshold. So it's determining that threshold. And if you were over income in 2019 because you earned more than the threshold, but due to COVID, your income is way low and lower, and you meet the threshold, you're eligible. So we have two different ways of qualifying you. And the first way is to look at your 2019 taxes and your federal taxes and go to line 8B, and you'll put in, you'll see whatever that number is. And if you're two people in a household, is this now big? Can you see that? Here's our chart. If you're two people in the household and line 8B is equal to or less than 54,650, then you're eligible. Good. If you're over 54,650, 500, then you're not eligible. So if you're a family of four, again, if you're under 68,300, then you would be eligible. If you find that you're over income on your taxes and you don't qualify, then we go to the bottom part of this chart, which is basically looking at the last 8 weeks of your income. So from the date of application back 8 weeks, look at what income you received. Did you have a part-time job that you got a pay stub? If you're living with a partner, then their income is also included. This is family household money. So we would need copies of all the pay stubs. If you have earned money from your business that came into your checkbook, we would, have to determine what that amount was that was not business related.
And I wanted to say that we work hard to find a way to make you eligible. So if you think that you're close, don't let this scare you off. Our job is to work through the numbers and to try to get it through. And we have clients who were not eligible for a period of time and then were eligible and then got into the program. So the thresholds there's a complicated set of thresholds that we did not establish, but we are trying to work with, and we try to get you approved. So don't let this scare you away if you think you're close.
And, like I said, this is based on 8 weeks. So 8 weeks might change 2 weeks from now or 2 weeks before. So we work, like Chris said, we will work with you. Um, that's an important first step. The second step is the profit and loss worksheet, which is looking at, because we have to determine your COVID loss. Like, did you have a loss? Some businesses have done really well in 2020 and they're not eligible. It's really looking at determining the loss. So the way that we determine the loss is we compare your 2019 and 2020 income and expenses. When you look at fill this in for the 2019, go to your Schedule C on your federal tax return and use those numbers for the 2019. Then in 2020, you've probably gathered up and you're ready for your taxes this year. Put your gross sales and your gross income, and then list your expenses. If you know your depreciation, you can put that in, but you don't have to. And then we want the total expenses and the difference, your total income. So the difference is that we're trying to see what your net income was for 2019 and your net income for 2020 and what the difference is. If you have any questions on this, let us know. If you're using QuickBooks, just give us a QuickBooks report and compare 2019 to 2020, and that will be fine. I think that's enough for this one. And make sure you put your name at the top, the business name at the top.
And there are really two ways to qualify. Did you cover that already, Amy?
Oh no, I forgot.
Okay. Yeah, there are really two ways to qualify. One is if your net income decreased by $10,000 or more. And the other is that if your gross income, in other words, your sales themselves decreased. And we work again with businesses to see which way they qualify. And it's a little bit of a complex web, but let us worry about that. But if you sold $30,000 in 2019 and you sold $20,000 in 2020, well, that's a $10,000 COVID loss on your sales side, on your gross income, and that would qualify you, even if you ended up, say, both years bringing home $2,000 or whatever it was. So in any case, just to lay that out there are two ways to qualify, and it's important to look at both, because some businesses qualify on one and not the other.
Right.
And that's our job to figure out how you qualify.
So, right. So there's several ways of qualifying. One is your personal income. Second is to demonstrate a COVID loss. The next one is you need to be in business by October 2019. The next one is you have to have 5 or fewer employees or 1099s on the date of application. So if you had 8 employees, 6 months ago, but you let them go and they're not working with you now, and it's just like maybe 3, then you would qualify. It's based on the number of employees on the date of application. Okay, I think there are others, and my brain we'll come back to it on the criteria. So I think I'm going to go to this. No. And the other is how you're going to use the funds. In order, if you get this 10,000, the expenses that you would use for these funds needs to be reasonable. They need to make sense. No trips to Bermuda. No hiring a contractor to do some major work somewhere else. Most of these expenses are allowable. It's the only ones that aren't is hiring a contractor to install something or some major equipment or purchase of property. But you could use it to buy a new computer or small equipment or air purifiers.
Well, and it's important to say too, that if you have already spent $10,000 that qualifies, you can list those expenses, verify those expenses, and then take this $10,000 and spend it in whatever way makes sense. So most businesses have spent $10,000 since March 10, 2020 on some qualifying expense. So that also means that according to our records, you've used the funds to reimburse yourself for these qualified expenses, but then that gives you that $10,000 to do whatever is important to do right now with it.
So when you fill this form out, you can list it all up from May 10th to today, and that would mean that you're getting reimbursed. On the column to the right, it's the next 3 months going forward. Again, you can't use it for mortgage payments, but you can use it on interest. And if you have a home office, you would need to, and you take a percentage of utilities and rent off your home, the way that we would verify the right amount would be on your previous year taxes. If you automatically deduct 10% on your taxes and it's documented, then that's what we would use to verify that you could do 10% of your expenses for 2020 to get reimbursed. And then you would just total this up, and it can't be more than $10,000. So it's got to be 10,000 or less. Okay, so now once you've got those forms completed, you can start the application because you're going to need some of these answers. So, okay. So the first part is your basic business contact information. If you have several owners in your business and you're the owner filling it out, use your name, and there'll be another place for you to put other owners, because they will also have to fill out the family income form.
Amy, how do you know how this works for co-ops? Because I know that I've been trying to answer questions in the chat while I've been talking, and there are two of the businesses here in the room are co-ops.
That's tricky because it's how many owners in the co-op.
Yeah.
And that's we might have to get more clarification.
Normally, we're dealing with business owners that have more than a 20 or 30% stake in the business,
right.
And that's how we determine. And it's individual households, so it's not that you don't add up the households from all. If there are, one owner owns 40%, another owner owns 40%, another owner owns 20%. We would count the 40 and the 40. But they don't add together. So if each family qualifies, then the whole business would qualify, even if the one who owns 20% is over income. So like I said, it's a little bit of a complex web, and we'd have to do some more research on how it works for co-ops. But again, our aim would be to find a way for you to qualify. So I would encourage you to continue with the process. And Amy and I will have to do a little digging on what it means when you have a large multiplicity of members, which is not something we've yet done.
Well, right. And my hunch is you may not be qualified because there's too many owners. And it might be that but it also depends. You might have a different owner structure where only 3 have a certain percentage, a higher percentage of shares. I don't know. Well, that's on the side. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, the questions about can co-op incorporations qualify? I think the question is, I don't know.
I don't know. We'll have to come back to you.
So corporations can qualify. That is true. We're not sure. We've done more than 50 businesses through these funds, but we just haven't done one of that kind yet.
And then this is the business owner's home contact information. And then this is where we talk about minimum basic eligibility. Whereas your 5 or fewer employees, what your legal structure is. We have a thing for cooperatives here, but it says no if you're a not-for-profit and the business is not eligible. But again, 5 or fewer employees is one of the factors for this federal CARES money. The next one is, was your business in operation before January? They actually changed that to October 2019, this about a month ago. Does your business provide goods and services to multiple clients or customers? So you need to, basically just make sure that, you can't just have one customer. Is your business current with all state and municipal taxes through March 1st, 2020, or have a workout plan? It's fine if you owe the state sales tax, but as long as you have a workout plan, or the city or the town. Doesn't mean that if you don't have a workout plan now, you can get one in the next few weeks and then, still qualify. Is your business current with all required licenses and registrations at the state and municipal level? Is your business a party to litigation involving the state or municipality? Is your business registered with the city or town in which it's located? So this is an important one. Most towns have business certificates that they issue to business owners. And that's one of the requirements that we have. We need a copy of that, or we need the town to send us an email in writing that confirms that the business certificate is current. We also ask the town to give us updated information on if the business owner is current on their taxes and water taxes, etc. That's one of the requirements. This is federal, this is taxpayers' money. So part of the expectation is that awardees would be current or have a workout. Is the business owner over the age of 18? And then check the business industry that best fits. So here's where it gets interesting. Businesses that are not eligible are cannabis related businesses, weapons and firearms, real estate sales or rentals, Airbnbs would be considered that, liquor stores, lobbyists, and chain stores. Those businesses are not eligible for this micro enterprise funds. If you have a variety of owners, here's where anybody with 20% or greater you'd list their name. And then we would then have to follow up and get each one of them to fill out a family income form. And then here's where you already filled out your family income form. This is where we would want to know, did you qualify based on your 2019 taxes or the last 8 weeks? And you would check off appropriately. The next section is on demographic information. And we need to report to the state this information: gender, ownership, check all that apply, just general information, and then ethnicity. The next section is the owner information. Does the owner currently work for the city or town? We want to make sure that there's no conflict of interest, and if there is, that we identify it and get a conflict of interest, and we get an ethics report that you have no impact on these funds and how they're being decided. So we need you to, or anybody in your family or who of the other owners, if anybody holds a position on a board or commission in that town. The next section is the business description. Are you open full time? What's happening now? Did you lay off employees? Limited sales, no sales, considering closing? The next one is, how did COVID-19 impact your business? Tell us about jobs, sales, inventory, supply chain, general operations, PPP, technical issues, new regulations, shutdowns, anything that you can help us understand how COVID-19 has impacted your business. And then using your profit and loss form, indicate the estimate loss your business has experienced since March 10th, 2020, when the governor shut down the state. We've already determined that, if you can give us an idea, and then enter the requested amount that you're seeking. If you've only experienced a $5,000 COVID loss, you're only eligible to receive $5,000. If you had a $20,000 COVID loss, you could only receive $10,000. So this is where we calculate what your COVID loss is, and where we make sure that what you're actually eligible for. If awarded the forgivable loan, what will these funds be used for? Check all apply. You can check as many as you want, and you can also add other funds. So we have, when we talk about staffing, it's really for employees, not you. These funds are really not meant to be a salary for you. They're meant for you to pay your staff or 1099s.
But again, if you have already paid your staff sometime between March and now, and that can be used as a qualified expense, well, then these funds are free for you to use however you wish. And I know the co-op question, like, what do we do if the owners are the employees, right? And I don't have an answer yet, but co-ops, as you could see in the list, are clearly a legal entity that is eligible, as are corporations. We just need to figure out the details for each individual business to see how they would qualify.
So, and like I said, equipment has to be small equipment, inventory, materials, supplies, rent, utilities, COVID supplies, technical assistance. If you want to redo your website and you want to hire somebody to help you do that is fine. Other services that you'd be hiring for to help pivot your business to sustain, working capital. So you can see that there's a lot of ways that you can get reimbursed and ways to help you pivot to a new model to sustain what's going on right now. These funds are not to be used for major equipment, purchases of real property, construction activities, business expansion, or lobbying. We need you to use these funds in the next 3 months from the date of application or backwards to March 10th. The next question is, do you have a loss of income equal to or greater than the requested assistance due to COVID? So this is where we determine if you're how much you're eligible for. And we're getting to the end now. These are really important narrative questions that help us determine how you've been impacted and how you, because this is community development block grant money, which is taxpayers' money. The goal is to develop a viable communities by providing decent housing and a suitable living environment, and by expanding economic opportunities, principally for people with low and moderate income. So the CARES Act is specifically for adverse impacts due to COVID. So the first question is, how, if at all, does your business support the basic needs of food, water, clothing, shelter, transportation, sanitation, education, and healthcare of residents who are of low and moderate income? They could be your customers. And if you know, think about your business and how you can answer that. If you have any questions on any of these, you can reach out to us and we'll help you with it. What makes your business unique and special in the community, in the neighborhood, town, or region? Describe any business changes or improvements, adding products or services, developing new strategies or tactics that you plan to implement using these funds. Here, we just want to see how you're going to pivot. How is this going to help your business move on? How did you determine that these expenses were reasonable for a program? Sometimes people have been buying equipment and they got 3 quotes, so they could say that this is a reasonable price because it's in line with what's normal out there. How will the assistance stabilize your business to prepare, prevent, respond to COVID-19? And what will this assistance help your business accomplish? Again, we're looking to see how you're pivoting in this environment and how these funds can help you. We also want to know if you applied for the PPP, received it, applied for EIDL and received it, applied for a micro forgivable loan from a bank or some other town, and if you applied and received pandemic unemployment money. What's important for us is to also know the amount of PPP you received, the EIDL, or any of these funds. A big part of this is a non-duplication of benefits. So if you did get PPP and you use that for payroll for August and September, and then you got these funds, you can't use it to reimburse yourself for paying your employees in those 2 months. You have to use these funds for different months. So you'll be asked to sign to certify that all this information is accurate right down here, but you'll also be asked later to fill out another form. And so, and also to tell us exactly how much you did get for PPP. Maybe you do it in the additional comments down here. That would be really helpful. Once you fill this out and you're not a robot, please press submit. We don't get it if you don't press submit. Once you press the submit button, you will get a response email that will say, these are the documents that you need in order to complete your application. And I'll go through that real quick, briefly. What you will need to so we'll get your application online immediately. Then you will need to email us, mail, or drop off your family income worksheet, your profit and loss worksheet, your proposed use of funds form, and most importantly, too, your 2019 federal taxes and schedules for personal and for business. The schedules that go with it. We don't need all the state. We don't need the state tax forms. We just need the federal. We can send you a secure link. You can email micro@fccdc.org and request a secure link that you can upload to our secure location. That's pretty much for your taxes, because we don't want anybody to have we don't want you to email that directly. The other forms you can email us directly, or you could just do it all at once. Any questions, comments? Once we've received all your documents and we'll go back and forth many times to make sure it's all in order. We then bring it to a review committee, and the review committee confirms that you're eligible, confirms that there's a COVID loss, that the proposed expenses are reasonable. And then once you pass that test, then I'll reach out to you and ask you to submit some other documentation, which is basically three or more forms. One is a non-duplicating form, a state and local compliance. One is a DUNS number. You'll have to get a DUNS number, which you can do online. And another is get a federal tax transcript, which just confirms that your 2019 taxes were received by the federal government. And then a form on your demographic identity. So once we have all of that, then we make a formal recommendation to the city of Greenfield. They do a final review to make sure everything is in place and accurate. And then they will send you a conditional award letter, an email with a contract. You will then reply to that email that you accept the terms. That will probably happen on a Monday. And then on Friday, there'll be a check available so that you and I would meet. You would sign the conditional award letter, and I get to give you the check. It's the joy of my day, my Fridays. And then, you have your options of putting that check in a separate checking account, and then drawing checks off of that account, and then giving us a statement. And Chris is going to talk about the forgiveness process. Or some people, we'll talk about what's the best strategy to manage the accounting of that. So I'm going to let Chris take it from here on the forgiveness. I'm going to stop sharing.
Thanks, Amy. So there's you can see there's a fair amount of detail in the program. And again, we did not design this program. We have tried to simplify it, believe it or not, and continue to work on that. We just got in a big, a whole bunch of us who are providing these funds just went all the way up to the state level and beyond to argue with them about how to make this process more simple. So just to say that on the forgiveness end, the things that you're going to be, most of the paperwork happens on the application side, but there is some paperwork required on the forgiveness side. And mostly that is documenting how you spent the funds. And what makes it easiest on everyone is if you can find a few large expenditures that qualify, and you have to provide what's called a proof of purchase, which is evidence that this what you are buying was used for your business. So rent is a common one, utilities with a utility bill that demonstrates the service address is your address, right? They don't want to pay for a business owner getting the electricity at their home if they're not using their home for business. So those kinds of verifications are called a proof of purchase. And there's a proof of payment that's required too, which is most often a canceled check or a bank statement. There are times where a document can be both a proof of purchase and a proof of payment. So an invoice that has payment information on it can serve as both. But for every expenditure that is allowed in this program, we need both a proof of purchase and a proof of payment. But you don't need to worry about that until you're ready to apply for the forgiveness. We do have some businesses that when they go through this process of the application, because they've already spent the money, because this is reimbursable, they're ready to apply for forgiveness right away. And they receive the check, they get the forgiveness paperwork to me, and then we begin working on that process immediately. So I don't really want to say much more about the forgiveness process. I'll dig into the details with you on that after you've gotten the money and started to spend it.
I just want to add one thing, which is
Yeah.
this is, it might feel like a lot of paperwork, and it is, but it's really a couple hours worth of work for $10,000.
Yeah.
And that's not so bad. And the other thing is, we all know that this program will be audited by the state in 3 years. And we don't want to touch these files. We want them to be perfect now. So that's why we're all being very meticulous about making sure that everything is in there in the right way, in order, so that we can move on.
And importantly, the audit is not of you. The
No,
audit
not of
is not of the CDC either. The audit is of the town of Greenfield.
Right.
So they are part of the chain of requirements, and they're the ones that are going to get in trouble if
Right.
there's a problem. But we don't anticipate that. But the word audit is a scary word. I've been audited a couple times myself as a business owner. So anyway, just to let you know, you are not going to be audited. That's
Nope.
not what.
So
Yeah.
I want to also mention that if there's, businesses in Athol can apply to the same program through New View CDC. They're implementing the Athol program. So it's the same rules, very similar application, same forms. So if you know anybody in Athol, please refer them to New View. And I can put the chat.
I'll put it in the chat. I got it, Amy.
Bill's email in the chat.
Oh, I don't have Bill's email. I was going to put the website on the chat. Maybe
Yeah.
you can put the email.
I'll put, yeah.
All right, so that's a lot of information. I tried to answer the questions that came up in the chat as best I could. What haven't we answered?
Is there a deadline for this?
Well, the deadline is a little bit loose right now. So we are working to get the funds out as soon as possible. What is likely to happen, what's kind of the first deadline, is that the funds that are set aside for Orange, if they aren't used by Orange businesses, will be made available to the rest of the county. Right now, we have a few towns where we've given out all the money allocated to that town, and there are still businesses in need, and they're on hold until all the other towns have applied for funds or haven't. We have a lot of towns that haven't quite used all their funds. The largest amount of money that's reserved for a town that hasn't been used is in Orange. So that's why we're doing this specific Orange section. We want the money to go to Orange businesses. We believe that there are hurting businesses in Orange who have not yet applied. So that's why we're having this info session. So there is not a hard deadline right now. But the danger is that Greenfield businesses, there are a lot of Greenfield businesses that right now are on hold because Greenfield's used all its funds already, and they're waiting for a reallocation. We will still continue to hold some set aside for Orange businesses, but it won't be at the volume. We right now have, I believe, $70,000 set aside for Orange businesses, And so there is and I'd say in a few weeks to a month, that money will be made available to the county.
Okay, because I took my taxes to the accountant today, so I'm not going to have financial information for probably a month.
But we don't need your 2020 taxes. You probably have your 2019 taxes and some, do you use QuickBooks?
Yes, but I don't put the income into QuickBooks, so the profit and loss doesn't.
Do you
really
have
work.
do you have a Square system?
Yes.
What point of sale, something?
Point of sale? Then you can use that as your gross sales.
Okay, well, my gross sales for 2020 were more than 2019. But our
How about your,
expenses were a whole lot more. So I think we're going to show a bigger business loss, but I'm
Right.
not going to know that.
You'll have it, right. It'll be the net. So we'll base it on net income.
if it sounds like you've got your income in one accounting system and your expenses in another,
Right.
you can fill out that form by hand
Right.
and submit it right away and not wait for your taxes. We can at least start on the process.
Right.
Okay.
Right. And if you could just write on that form, if you received any PPP or EIDL, that would be helpful.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you also mentioned at the beginning that closing for good, you're not eligible. Can you
Right.
expand on that? Is there like a time limit you have to stay in business? Because I see
No.
retirement like 5 years from now.
Nope. Basically, that means that if you were in operation in 2020 and you received these funds in March, that in April you weren't going to go out of business before forgiveness.
Okay.
You could go out of business. You could decide to close your business in August, but the forgiveness would be already done.
Okay.
The idea is that we don't want you to. The goal is to help these businesses stay in business, and part of the work is to get these funds out, but also is for Chris and I to help in any way we can to help sustain through this time.
And I should say that we're even building program based on what we've learned about the businesses that are hurting in COVID. We are now building programs to serve those. Those needs existed before COVID. We just didn't know about them. So we are trying to use this opportunity to make the CDC more robust in its assistance to local businesses. So we take that really seriously. There are lots of businesses all over the country that are going out all the time, right? So it's an urgent time, but we do this work all the time, even with outside of COVID.
Right. And again, we can help strategize, and sometimes we can be spokespersons to landlords and other vendors if there are issues. So there's all kinds of possibilities that we can explore together. Any other questions?
So I do also want to mention, oh, is there a question? Sorry.
Sorry, I just, you keep on mentioning you wanted all this 2019 information, but where we took the loss was in 2020. So.
No,
It's for comparison.
We need both to compare.
You need both, okay.
And this program was begun in 2020, so we knew no one had final numbers in 2020
Okay.
to report then. So, and now some people have their tax returns done. Most people do not. Lots of people getting extensions because they got a PPP and they don't know how to treat it. So we recognize all of that. So we know that your 2020 numbers are more complicated than maybe they've ever been. And so we need the 2019 numbers for a comparison, but the 2020 numbers will work with you to get something to base the loan on.
Okay, so I just should contact you tomorrow about the co-op thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll have to do a little digging. You have to figure it out.
Right.
And
or send us an email with
Yeah.
how many members are in the co-op, and that might be helpful. And if there's a top management team, or
Well, we have we have the people in charge of things. Yes.
right.
Right. Well, and if there is, I don't know how the how the owner structure works at your co-op, right? Some co-ops have tiered management. And
Right.
so we might, if that were the case, we might look at the, tiered ownership. So we might look at the way that certain owners are, and, maybe the bulk of the members
Right.
own such a low percentage that we don't need to include them, but there might be a core. So anyway,
But
any
it-
information like that would be helpful to us.
But it will come down to the income, the family income of each of those top owners.
But none of the top owners have any more percentage than any other people.
Right. It's not,
Yeah.
they'll all be equal and need family income forms filled out.
So if they're 200 members, Amy, they would disqualify the business if
Yeah.
one.
Because they're
Really?
more than 5. That's the disqualifying thing. That's why I don't think the co-op will fit, because there's more than 5 owners.
But there's not going to be more than 5 owners with 20% stake.
It all depends. Right. It all depends on that. Justifying
We
that.
have to do some digging. We do not know the answer clearly, so we'll find out. I'm hopeful that there will be an answer to this, that will be positive for you, but we don't know.
We don't know.
Okay, my understanding when we incorporated was so that none of us individually would be responsible for any of that. So
Well,
No,
this particular program is also, there are corporations. So, the incorporation is also a lot about liability and all kinds of other concerns. And so there are a number of businesses that are incorporated, but they still basically have a few owners. And this program is useful for those particular incorporated business owners. I just don't know the situation for your co-op.
I go back to this is federal CARES money that was adopted by the federal government to serve low, moderate income business owners to sustain through this COVID time. And that's why the PPP and the EIDL and these other funds are much more flexible for servicing different needs. So,
Yeah.
We have a box, and we'll get back to you on how that's
Right.
going to fit or not.
okay.
Any other questions? And I'm happy also to touch briefly on PPP round 1, PPP round 2. There's also new guidance in the PPP that was issued just last week for businesses with 20 or fewer employees. We're not even up to speed on that guidance yet, but I'm happy to talk about any of that stuff to the best of my ability if you have questions about it. Yeah, Mary Ellen.
Actually, I was thinking and went through this that I'm not quite sure we're quite eligible for this, but one of the things we increased I think we almost doubled our payroll over the past year. One of the things we were doing is we were doing curbside pickups. So we had extra staff doing a lot of different things, keeping the place clean and packaging and things. So I was wondering if actually that is something, I actually didn't realize they were still open.
The PPP absolutely is still open, and they just announced last week that any business with 20 or fewer employees has a special 2-week window for new applications. And this goes for round 1. So if you've never applied in 2020 for PPP, you're in an even special case. Those funds do not have to demonstrate a COVID loss either. So very importantly, it's based on your payroll. And you can base it on many different pay periods. So I would need to do some research to know if you were doing a first draw PPP fund under this 20 or fewer employees special time, whether you could use a 2021 payroll, but you may be, and that would make you eligible. If your payroll doubled, that would double the PPP funds. Those are also forgivable.
Well, I think our payroll kind of doubled, say, from January of 2020 to July of 2020 or something like that.
Okay, so you would be able to pick the month. You basically base it on a month's worth of payroll, and then in most industries you multiply it by 2.5. In certain sectors, including restaurants, and I don't think co-ops would be included, but they might be. I mean, food co-ops might be included. You would use 3.5 times that payroll, and that's your peak PPP funds. And if you have not yet gone for the first round draw, you do not need to show a COVID loss. And those are forgivable. If you spend it on payroll, you have to spend 60% on payroll. You have to spend it on other qualified expenses, including rent, utilities. Inventory is not allowed in the PPP program. There are some software and other concerns that are allowed, especially if they're allowing you to pivot towards online or curbside pickup. So those expenses are allowed. And if you're in a second draw, if you've done the PPP once and you want to do it again, you can, and it's still forgivable. The big difference is you have to have a COVID loss of 25% or more, and in the same quarter. So you would compare a quarter in 2019 to a quarter in 2020, and you'd have to show a 25% decrease. And that's mostly in gross sales, but there are some particulars there. The application process is much easier than it was in 2020. They've streamlined it. And the forgiveness process is also much easier than it was in 2020, particularly if you are getting less than $50,000 from this fund. And also the next threshold is under $150,000. So, and there's a 2-week window for applying for this funds where businesses with fewer than 20 employees get prioritized. And that starts like tomorrow or, very soon.
And they should go to your local bank to apply.
If you have a relationship with a bank that you like, go there, and they should be good at this point. I know that the banks that we deal with on a regular basis have got their systems down. They've made it very easy to apply, and the money shows up pretty quickly once you get approved. And
Our local bank's a credit union.
They're not doing it. I don't think they're doing PPPs.
Okay.
The bank?
I think there might be a bank in Athol. There's none in Orange anymore.
Yeah.
Right.
So any of the major banks are doing it. And like I said, they should be good at it. If you get stuck, let us know and we'll hook you up with some banks that we know that are great. But we encourage people to use the relationships they already have, because this will strengthen those relationships when you need a loan from that bank in the future. That's, post-pandemic, it's all dream. Post-pandemic, when your business is booming and you need a loan for the growth that is happening, right? Those relationships will be retained, we hope. So we encourage people to go to the banks that they're familiar with.
Yep.
Any more questions about any of this stuff?
I have a question. So now that you've heard this whole program and all the details, does it seem like something that you would apply for or continue exploring?
Continue exploring, but it doesn't sound like we have a lot of promise there.
But you as an individual artist could possibly do it as an individual artist.
It
I know
doesn't,
what the other threshold was. The other threshold criteria is that you have to have made over $20,000 in the previous year or the previous years.
In gross sales.
Gross sales, yeah.
no. I wish.
My one other question is, I actually live in New Salem, which was on the list, and I was wondering, do you have money and do you have a way to contact the local businesses there?
New Salem is not in this program. I think it's in the Athol program.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
And I think, and if you live in New Salem, but your business is located in Orange, then you would be eligible in the Orange. It's where the business is located and not where the owner is located.
I'm just a local booster, so I thought I'd ask.
I think.
Well, we're just over an hour here, so
well, I take it back.
Yeah, New Salem is in our program, Amy.
Yeah,
I just looked it up.
I thought it was.
New Salem
Yes.
is in this program. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Okay.
So let me ask this question about there are a lot of small towns that have newsletters that are the real news of the town.
Yes,
Does New
there is.
Salem have one?
Yes, we do have one. Which is
Okay.
lovely.
We'd love to have this information in there.
Okay,
Yeah,
I can send you the email of the
Yep, that'd be
I
great.
will do that. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you
And also the deadline, if you know when that deadline is.
for getting in the newsletter,
Oh,
what they're,
right, it comes out on Saturdays, so,
Oh, it's a
Okay.
weekly?
yeah.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you know any businesses in Franklin County that could benefit from this, please help spread the word.
Yeah.
Because it's really, it's a great program for, for what it's meant to do.
yeah, I mean, we've helped, like I was saying before, more than 50 businesses, and a number of them would be out of business without this. So it's really essential for a certain class of business. And we know they're out there, and a lot of them just don't know about it. So any help is
Yeah.
appreciated.
So please, micro@fccdc.org is how it goes to both Chris and I. And if you have any questions, let us know. We'll really, like Chris said, we'll really work with you to see how we can make this work for you. And I'm going to stop recording, and this will be on our available for people. We'll put it on our website.